Freak shows didn't just pop up in the 1800s, they'd been simmering for centuries. By the 17th century, people with extreme deformities were already being dragged into public spaces for money, often because no one else would hire them. Some, like the Colloredo twins, had no real choice. By the 19th century, the word freak became a brand, and men like P.T. Barnum knew exactly how to sell it. He promised fame and fortune, but what he really sold was shock. And today, we're going to show you some of the most disturbing circus freaks that actually existed. Let's start off with number 15, the alligator-skinned man. Emtt Bano, known as the alligator-skinned man, was born in Florida with ichthyosis, a genetic disorder that caused his skin to become thick, dry, and scaly. His appearance made him a natural fit for the sideshow world, where he began performing as a young man. During his career, he met Priscilla, who performed as the Monkey Girl due to her hypertrichosis, a condition that caused excessive hair growth. The two married in 1938 and toured together under the title The World's Strangest Married Couple. They lived much of their lives on the road, performing for crowds fascinated by their differences. Despite personal hardships, including the loss of a daughter, they built a long and steady marriage. Emtt died in 1995, and Priscilla followed 6 years later. Together, they represented the human side of a business often driven by spectacle. Their relationship endured far beyond the fame that first brought them together. Number 14, Hugo Zakini. Hugo Zakini wasn't just a freak show performer. Basically, he was the projectile. Fired from a compressed air cannon invented by his father, he became the first human cannonball to fly using that technology. His circus family traced its roots back to Italy, though Hugo himself was born while the troupe was touring in Peru. By age 12, he had completed formal art studies in Rome and later earned a master's degree in New York. But it was in mid-air that he found his spotlight. After debuting the Cannon Act in Egypt, he was discovered by John Ringling in Denmark in 1928 and quickly signed. Off-stage, Zakini was multilingual, an accomplished sculptor, and an art teacher. He famously sued, and won, against an Ohio TV station for airing his full act without his permission, taking the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. He died in California in 1975 on his 77th birthday. Most remember him mid-flight, arms stretched, defying gravity and legal precedent in equal measure, as he always wished for. Number 13, Gunther Gebel Williams. Gunther was born in 1934 in Schweidnitz, now part of Poland. After World War II, he and his mother relocated to Germany, where they started working with Circus Williams. When the owner died suddenly, the 18-year-old Gunther was asked to take over the animal training. He added Williams to his name and never looked back. Known for his control and calm demeanor, he became one of the most famous animal trainers in circus history, working with elephants, tigers, and leopards. In 1968, he joined Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey Circus and became a television fixture in the U.S. throughout the 1970s and 80s. He later took an executive role in animal care and passed his knowledge on to his son, Mark. Gunther remained with the circus until his retirement in 1990. He died of a brain tumor in 2001 in Venice, Florida. For many, he was the public face of the American circus at a time when the spotlight still loved the ring. Number 12, Fred Bradner. He started life in Strasbourg, fluent in 5 languages and trained as a cavalryman, but Fred Bradner left it all behind for the sawdust ring. After meeting equestrian performer Ella Bradner during a circus show in Vienna, he gave up a military career and even his family name. By the time they arrived in New York in 1903, the couple had already become a force in the international circus circuit. While Ella dazzled on horseback, Fred shifted from equestrian performer to director, overseeing massive daily parades, timing the shows down to the minute, and even escorting Woodrow Wilson into the ring in 1916. Over 4 decades, he managed acts through storms, fires, train wrecks, and tragedy, including the 1944 Hartford Fire. In 1945, a quarter-pole accident ended his time on the road. He later published a memoir and was honored posthumously by both the Circus Hall of Fame and the Ring of Fame. He died in Sarasota in 1955. Number 11. Johann K. Petursson. Johann Kristinn Petursson from Iceland was one of the tallest Icelandic men ever recorded, reaching 7 feet 8 inches. He grew normally until age 15, then began an unexplained and rapid growth spurt. By 17, he was said to be able to lift small trucks, but the same growth caused lifelong joint pain and mobility issues. Unable to find steady work, Johann turned to performance. He toured vaudeville stages in Europe, later working in a shipyard during World War II. In 1948, he was recruited by Ringling Brothers and Barnum and moved to the U.S., where he was promoted as the Viking Giant. His trailer, clothes, and furniture were all custom-built to fit his size. He acted in films, most notably Prehistoric Women, and became a fixture in the American circus world. He retired in 1963 and died in Iceland in 1984 after returning home following an injury. He is still remembered for his stature, both literal and cultural. Number 10. Betty Lou Williams. Betty Lou Williams was born in 1932 in Albany, the youngest of 12 children to sharecropping parents. At 2 years old, she was discovered by Ripley's Believe It or Not and began touring as a medical curiosity. Betty Lou lived with a parasitic twin embedded in her torso. The twins' heads and partial limbs, 2 legs and 1 arm, protruded from her abdomen, making her one of the rarest cases ever exhibited. Despite her circumstances, she was known for her intelligence and generosity. By her teenage years, she had earned enough money to send her 11 siblings to college and purchase her parents a 260-acre farm, paid for in cash. Those who knew her described her as kind, patient, and soft-spoken. Sadly, after her fiancé stole most of her savings and disappeared, her health declined rapidly. She died in 1955 at just 23, officially from asthma, though many people close to her said heartbreak was the real cause. Number 9. Charlie Bowman. Charlie Bowman earned fame not through dominance, but through empathy. Growing up in Berlin during brutal wartime, he watched cruelty firsthand and carried that awareness into his work with animals. After losing his father in a concentration camp and surviving the war himself, Bowman found refuge in the circus. He began with horses, shifted to lions, and finally devoted himself to tigers, the creatures he considered the violins of the big cats. His approach was calm, precise, and entirely free from aggression. By the 1960s, he had joined the infamous Ringling Brothers, performing with as many as 16 tigers at once in carefully choreographed routines that emphasized rhythm over fear. Audiences saw him not as a conqueror, but as a partner to his animals. When he retired in 1983, he remained with the circus as performance director until 1991. Bowman died in Sarasota in 2001, remembered as the quiet man who made tigers dance without ever raising his voice. He was not a freak, but a man with talent. Number 8. Alyssa Vasilevich and Otto Eberstadt. Alyssa Vasilevich and Otto Eberstadt performed with the Cook Circus Troupe between 1839 and 1843. Alyssa was a contortionist, Otto, a strongman. They married in 1840 and became known for combining strength and acrobatics in unusual ways. One of their early acts, called The Russian Doll, involved Otto juggling large nesting dolls until the smallest one opened to reveal Alyssa curled up inside. In 1843, they debuted a riskier act known as the Tin Canister Extravaganza, in which Alyssa contorted into an industrial food can provided by Donking Hall and Gamble Cannery. The performance ended in disaster. During the finale, the sharp tool used to break the lead seal malfunctioned, trapping Alyssa inside. Though she was eventually freed, the stunt was never repeated. Their act appeared in London's Globe and Traveller and was preserved in the Mander and Mitchinson Circus archives. Otto and Alyssa's work captured the extremes of Victorian sideshow invention, both creative and, at times, recklessly ambitious. Number 7. Tiny Lavonda. She couldn't stand, but she never let that stop her from being seen. Known on stage as Tiny, she measured about 24 inches tall and had no legs in the conventional sense. Her feet extended directly from her torso. Her wheelchair was custom-built, her stage persona ever-present, and her condition never defined her mood. She toured with Clyde Beatty's Circus, drawing constant attention, not just for her size, but for her presence. In 1945, she married a dwarf clown named Alva Evans. They had a son, though heartbreak followed. The child died just days after birth. Still, she remained part of the sideshow world, always with a composed smile as she was gently wheeled past audiences. She never performed acrobatics or stunts. She simply existed with a dignity people remembered. For someone who couldn't walk, she had an unmatched poise. Tiny wasn't famous for what she did, but for how she carried herself when life gave her nothing to lean on. Number 6. Bird Milman. Bird never needed fireworks or fanfare. She walked wire with a grace that did all the talking. Raised in a traveling show family from Colloredo, she hit the vaudeville circuit early before gaining serious momentum on New York stages. Her high-wire act was so polished, she once performed for Kaiser Wilhelm II. By 1913, she was headlining with Barnum, often placed center ring, an honor reserved for the circus's elite. In the off-season, she joined the Ziegfeld Follies, commanding Broadway crowds just as easily. She didn't rely on tricks or shocks, just pure speed, balance, and an effortless flow that defied gravity. In later years, after multiple marriages and her husband's financial ruin in the 1929 crash, she returned to Colloredo. She died of cancer in 1940 at just 49, largely forgotten by the public. But in circus history, she remains a benchmark for elegance on the wire, inducted into the Circus Hall of Fame, and still studied by performers today. Number 5. William Dirks. William Dirks was born in northern Alabama with frontonasal dysplasia, a rare congenital condition that created a deep cleft in the middle of his face, giving the appearance of two noses. Raised in rural isolation, he received no formal education and spent much of his early life hidden from public view. As a teenager, he left home and entered the sideshow circuit, where he gained attention performing at Hubert's Museum in New York. To enhance his stage persona, he painted a third eye onto his forehead, presenting himself as a mystical, three-eyed man. By the 1960s, he was earning $100 a week, considered good pay for a sideshow act. William was known for his calm personality and dry sense of humor. He eventually married Mildred, a fellow performer known as the alligator-skinned woman, and the two lived quietly together off stage. While many viewed him as an oddity, those who knew him spoke of a steady, intelligent man who lived on his own terms and never asked for pity. He was not a freak, but a real legend. Number 4. Little Queen Mab. Nellie Keeler was born on a quiet farm in Indiana in 1875, and by the time she turned 3, she weighed only 11 pounds. That was enough to catch P.T. Barnum's attention. He brought her into his traveling circus, giving her the stage name Little Queen Mab, and presenting her beside the towering Middlebush giant for contrast. At just over 2 feet tall, she charmed crowds not by force, but with calm grace. Her fame soared, but her growth didn't stop. By 12, she had begun to grow out of the act, eventually reaching around 5 feet. She left the spotlight quietly, her fame shrinking as quickly as it had expanded. Her health declined throughout her late teens, and at 28, tuberculosis took her life. Fearing grave robbers, her family buried her in a sealed vault. She was no circus oddity, just a small girl briefly seen through a larger-than-life lens. Her memory, though, lives as one of Barnum's most delicate icons. Number 3. Madame Petty. Long before influencers and pop culture icons, Madame Petty made her mark sitting still. Her hair did all the work, long, flowing, and impossibly dramatic. In the 1870s, Barnum featured her among his famed long-haired ladies, a rare act that required no dancing, singing, or sideshow condition. She simply sat, elegant and silent, while her hair draped down like fabric spun from patience. Unlike many performers of her time, she came from stability. Raised in Brooklyn, married to a sea captain who disappeared near Cape Hatteras in 1889. After his disappearance, she never remarried. Some say she poured her grief into her performance, transforming her mourning into spectacle. While others were shocked, she softened the crowd. In a world that sought deformity, she offered devotion, years of growing, brushing, maintaining a part of herself no tragedy could take. Petty's fame didn't rest on extremes, but on a simple idea. Endurance can be captivating. Her silence said more than most acts ever could. All right now, let's move to number 2. Henry Crip Hurd. Henry Hurd didn't want pity, he wanted rhythm. Raised in the 1930s, he started dancing young. Way before most kids had jobs, he was already performing in clubs. Then he lost his right arm and leg to a train accident in Memphis. That could have ended everything. But Crip didn't disappear. He relearned how to balance, move, and command a stage using half a body and full determination. By the 1940s, he was a sensation in the black vaudeville scene. He brought the house down in Boarding House Blues, 1948, where, for some reason, they had him open the show. No one could follow him. In 1959, he was robbed on the way to a gig. A year later, a stroke and fall broke multiple bones. He kept moving until retirement in 1971. Hurd passed in 1991, not as a novelty act, but as a man who proved that grace, showmanship, and fire don't depend on having 2 legs, or even 2 chances. He was truly a one-of-a-kind performer. Number 1. Sarah Howalt. Sarah was born with Hallermann-Streiff syndrome, which affects bone development and vision. Standing 144 centimeters tall and legally blind, she grew up in Australia, where she later represented the country in the 2000 Sydney Paralympic Games as a swimmer. After retiring from athletics, Sarah turned to circus and physical theater, combining aerial rope and hoop performance with character work. Her act emphasized movement, balance, and control rather than spectacle. She referred to herself as a natural-born freak, embracing a word often used to demean circus performers of the past. Off-stage, Sarah worked as an arts advocate in New South Wales, promoting inclusion and accessibility in creative industries. Her performances drew attention for their precision and emotional strength. Hallermann-Streiff may have shaped her appearance, but it never limited her expression. Sarah Howalt built a career that redefined what performance could mean for those born different, on their own terms. So, what do you think about these circus freaks? Well, drop your comment below, and we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.